Hello, I'm Colleen. Let's look at self-awareness. What is self-awareness? Really, when you think of it, it's about an awareness of who you are. Where does self-awareness fit? When we look at EQ, which is also known as emotional intelligence, here we have 5 different pillars. And the first pillar is self-awareness. When you look at the other pillars, you've got self-regulation, internal motivation, empathy, and social skills. So let's look at this further. When you think of it, those first 3 pillars are all about I, because they're all about self. The next pillar is all about you, and the last pillar is all about we. So often we jump into situations where we're trying to get we're trying to get a team, we're trying to get a group to work together, or we're trying to have a relationship, for instance, or care about other people. And we're so busy focused on the you and the we that we forget about I. A lot of people feel that in order to focus on I, it's almost like it's not being humble. And what I would like to remind you about is that we are unique in that we are very different. We have got amazing skills and just abilities. And when you feel like you cannot be who you are, it's very much about that you have this whole idea of not being humble, and that humble needs to be hidden. Humble isn't hidden. Humble must take its space. It must know that it's being called on to do something that is unique and especially that you can only do. So please don't think that humble is hidden. What we also look at is that a lot of emotional intelligence and self-awareness starts in how do you feel. So it's centered in emotion. That's something also that we get told, oh, emotion's bad. But emotion's not bad because we act on emotion. So how do you feel? Can you describe it? Do you have a word for it? And maybe another language has a word for it. And this is what we call emotional literacy. Are you literate about your own emotion? Because if you aren't literate about your emotion, you sure aren't going to be literate about anybody else's emotion. And as I said, emotion, when you start to realize how you're feeling, that emotion is what we act on. That's what we end up being cross about, or being not speaking to somebody because of the emotion of how we're feeling. And when you discover the emotion, you can go back and find the thought that's causing that emotion. So what is very important is just look here. This English teacher, Caitlin Robb, she came up with this vocab wheel. And just look at sad here, where someone's saying, oh, I'm feeling sad. Self-awareness of how you're feeling. But you could be feeling guilty, abandoned, despair, depressed, lonely, bored, indifferent, apathetic, isolated, abandoned, empty, inferior, vulnerable, powerless, victimized, ignored, ashamed, and remorseful. So many things just in that emotion of sad. So it's important to sit down and say, okay, what kind of sad? Why am I feeling sad? What's another word for it? When you're spending time being self-aware, it's important that you don't judge yourself. That voice of judgment, hey, get rid of it. It's really not going to benefit you if you're going to judge every single thing that you are being aware of. So we've already looked at how you're feeling. How did you react in a situation? Could it have been better? Why did you react that way? Are you listening, or are you waiting for someone to finally shush so that you can carry on talking? These 2 next ones are very good in that what do you like? So many of my clients forget. They've suppressed themselves so much, they're so hidden that they no longer know what they like. What are you good at? People go, oh no, I couldn't say what I'm good at. You should have at least 100 things on your list of things that you're good at. And it doesn't only have to be centered at work or centered at home. It can be anywhere. What are you good at? So as I'm saying that right now, what's the first thing that came to your mind? Write that one down and then carry on going. Another one that's so important is about what are your values and what are your beliefs? If you're going to work in a place, for instance, that doesn't share your values, you're always going to be a disconnect. But it's pointless going somewhere and you don't even know what your values are. What are your strengths? What are you good at? Again, there. Okay. And then what are you called on? What are you called on to do as your purpose? And then a big one that makes a huge, massive difference is what are you grateful for? So from a self-awareness point of view, please make sure that you spend time getting to know you, getting to know what makes you tick, what makes you want to get up in the mornings, what makes you, because that's also important, in self-awareness. You then need to be aware of yourself in all those other pillars. How are you in empathy? How are you as in a team? So please join me and spend time getting to know who you are, because you really are worth knowing. Thank you. I'm Colleen Quist.